This afternoon, my pleasure, and it really is a pleasure, is to have Catherine Leonard, who is the managing broker of Baird & Warner in Evanston. Catherine and I have known each other a long time. We've shared several stories about husbands and about hobbies and all sorts of good things and a lot about real estate. So, Catherine, my first question to you is, tell me a little bit how you came to be in this real estate business.
Well, I have to say, it sounds like I'm making this up, but we had a wonderful realtor when we moved here from Paris, France, 24 years ago. We were so impressed by her and that she put us first. There was never a sense that, let me just sell these idiots a house, they don't know what they're doing, and make the money. She took me around to schools. She took my children out to lunch while I visited the school.
Nice.
And I thought, I could do that, and I'd like to do it like she does. So it was a long time since when we moved here and I began to do it, but that stuck in my mind because I thought she shattered the myth of realtors being, pardon the expression, used car salespeople, only out for their own good, and I thought that was admirable.
What did you do before you were a realtor?
My first career decades ago was on Madison Avenue in New York City. I was a mad woman in the ad agency, in the largest privately held ad agency in the world. And surprise, surprise, those skills translated exactly to being a realtor.
They would have.
Because you're managing a transaction, if you will, and managing very disparate teams of people trying to get one thing done. In one case, a commercial filmed, and in another case, a home purchased.
What made you transition from being a sales professional to being management?
You know, that was sheer luck and probably one of the best days of my life. Someone gave my name to the then, I think she was senior VP at the time. She's now president of Baird & Warner Residential Sales. And she called me out of the blue and said, "You don't know me, there's an opening, and would that interest you?" And I said, "Absolutely." And when I met with her, I just realized, these are my people. We got along well, and then I got to go meet Steve Baird the next day, and that was it. I signed at the moment.
So really, you've been with Baird & Warner a long time now.
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
My next question for you is then, managing an office, we're going to talk about it being a little more challenging in a few days.
Yes, ma'am.
But managing an office, even in the best of times, is challenging. What part of being a manager do you like the best?
Let me try to think of an answer that doesn't sound, trite, because it's tempting to say, I really like helping people. I think hiring new agents and proving to them that we really mean what we say, that we really are going to be as supportive as we say we're going to be. Mm-hmm. And they seem almost bemused by the fact that we're all available and we're checking on them. How are you doing? How is it going? I teach some of the training classes, which is really, really rewarding. So I guess the new agent portion is my favorite.
I like them too. They do what I tell them. That's why I really like them.
Maybe
they do what I tell them, and they don't argue with me.
Yeah, you've heard between the lines
yes.
of what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I also like, it's kind of fun to watch them. Not all of them bloom, but it's kind of fun to watch the ones that do bloom.
Right.
Really, for doing that. Right now, we're in an interesting part in real estate. And I've been out teaching ABR classes. I'm sure you've been teaching about all of the issues that we're having here. I'm trying to think almost at this point, because I've been talking about this since last October.
Right.
Try to think a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, what do I need to be teaching from, and I'm not talking about the different forms or this or that, but what do I need, what's my message need to be from here to get them to where I think in a year from now, I'm hoping a year, maybe two, they're going like, what were we all so fussed up about? Why were we all fretting about this so much? So what is it you think that we need to be, because I'm really, that's my driving time. What do I need to be talking about other than, this is what you put on the form, this is how you do it, this is what you say, which is important. It's not, but what is the overarching thing that I need to talk about in the next couple months?
Mindset. When we approach a seller, our mindset is, I need to show them all these great things I'm going to do, all the great tools I have, how wonderful I am, and then I'm going to tell them how much they need to pay me, what my fee is.
Mm-hmm.
we need to do the same thing for buyers. We have never done that. We really haven't. We have been assumptive. That's my new word about
love
this
that
time.
word.
We have been assumptive about the fact that we will get paid. As realtors, of course I'm going to get paid. Seller's going to pay me, right? Perish the thought. We can't say that anymore. It was really never true, but we didn't demonstrate our value. We just assumed somehow that money's going to appear in my account after my buyer closes on their house. And it shouldn't ever have been like that, and it shouldn't be like that now. We have to demonstrate our value to the buyer the same way we do to the seller. Why wouldn't you?
The biggest challenge that I've had, and I think they think I'm crabby when I say this,
It's okay.
I say to them, so what's your value? And they hem and they haw and they can't. And then they say words like, well, I'm professional. And then I yell at them and say, you can't have that word anymore. Well, then I have integrity. No, you can't have that word anymore either. Well, then I've been doing this for 20 years. I said, that's the one you really can't have anymore.
Right.
And they kind of are still, at that point, they start to really struggle. Like,
So-
what's my, I keep saying, tell me concretely. The example you used of the listing, I can show you what we're going to do. We're going to take pictures.
Yeah.
What are you going to do the same thing for me?
It's my third word in this. So we said mindset, we said assumptive. The third word is process. Here is my process. Now, we have a very distinct and, if I may say, well taught and trained process for buyer agents at Baird & Warner, but I'm sure all other companies do too. All individual agents have a process. Say it, show it, write it out, present it. It gives it the gravitas that it deserves. And that's where the assumptive part comes back. We assume that our buyers know all that we go through. They don't. So
No, they have no idea.
reflect on what is my process. Really think about it. And it may go as far as, I also bring lunch in the car if you have small children. What's your process? Lay it all out, put it in a presentable form, and present it.
I've been talking about how important the presentation materials. Well, number one, I've nicknamed it. It is the Starbucks meeting. They have to have a Starbucks meeting before I open the door for you. You have to sit down with me at Starbucks, wherever, but Starbucks is everywhere, so I figure they can always find a Starbucks, so find the Starbucks. And then you need to have a presentation. One of the things that I think we've been missing, and so I've been thinking about this as well. Several years ago, we changed from being sales people to brokers.
Right.
I'm fussing about the word broker, because to me the word broker is this. I'm going to bang this deal together no matter what. I want to go back to and I know the marketing guy and I, we did this because we didn't like this word agent. We took this out. I'm going to put that word agent back because I want them to understand again, that's not my job. My job is to put you in front of me, my client, and it's to protect you, to put you behind me and protect you. And sometimes that means we're not going to do this because it's not the right thing.
Yeah, an agent conjures up the notion of being an advocate, and that's a word
Yes.
we use a lot in our company. That I'm your buyer advocate.
Yes.
And A, I think that's true, and B, I think we have a long way to go to get buyers to believe that and to understand it, and that's where explaining the process helps.
One of my friends, my darling friends, called me one day, and I probably told you this before, I tell this story a lot, called me one day, and he said, I'm furious. I am absolutely furious. And he's a really good, successful agent. And he said, they had the nerve to ask me to give money back at the closing. And he raved for an hour. And I like him enough that I listened to him rave for an hour. He called me the next morning and said, I've been thinking about this. I said, you want to rave some more? He said, no. He said, it's my fault. I said, okay, this is a lot different than the conversation we had yesterday. He said, yeah. He said, I've got a killer team. My team is great. Everything that arises, everything that happens, everything we do, silky. We make it silky. We solve it, we fix it, we take care of all of that. He said, this morning we've had a manager's meeting or a team meeting at my office. He said, we're still going to fix it. But every time we fix something now, we're going to tell people what we did for them.
I think that's fair, and it's not in a bragging sense.
No,
it's
not
not
at
in
all.
a finger-wagging sense. I would always use the word deserve in our trainings. Your clients deserve to know, yes, all the market facts, all the statistics, but they deserve to know what you're doing for your fee.
Yes.
And we assume they know, they don't, or we assume I shouldn't say that. Say it. It's part of your process.
It's part of the process. And I said, and you're lucky because you have a team large enough to be able to do that. I said, for the poor single operators, it's harder because this fire, they put this fire out, the next one's already burning. So it gets harder to be telling all that. But I said, I understand what you're saying here. You've got to be able to tell people. The other thing that I'm talking a lot about is, so when's the last time you explained to people what the rules of the game for agency are in Illinois? And people look at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that went under the mat just a little bit, didn't
Yes. What happened? I said, you don't understand. They're not realtors. They don't know what the rules are. Why wouldn't you tell them as part of, I'm going to tell you what the process is, but I'm going to tell you the way this works and what you get from me and how agency works.
I think it's not for lack of training from wonderful people like you
No.
and your team. I think it's a sense on our part that really we're not valuable. We have this sense of, well, I shouldn't, they're not going to want to know about that, or we assume they do know about it, but we don't hold our heads high and say, welcome to my open house. I don't represent the seller. I'm here to be an advocate for any buyers, but I do not represent the seller. And here's a no agency form so that to protect you should you feel inclined to share information that maybe isn't
Exactly
in your best
right.
interest.
We assume that they know, and we're afraid. The other thing I think we're afraid we're going to bore them. If we tell them too much, they're going to get bored and go away because everything has to go really fast and really speedy. And no, I've been quoting my daughter a lot. She used to say this to me because I'm a little fast talker. And she would say, Mom, you've got to slow your roll. And I've been quoting that a lot to people. You have to slow your roll.
I've got a trick for that in some of our trainings. Enumerate and tell them how many things you're going to say. So I have 3 things to tell you. Then after number 3, they know you're going to stop talking. And
I'd have to give them 25.
Well,
There's 25
you're going to have to cut down.
Yeah.
But I think it also shows I have a process. I have 5 things that I do for my buyers. And before I onboard you as my exclusive client, I want to tell you what those 5 things are. Okay, tell me the 5 things.
5 things.
I can do that.
Because I really think that people have just gotten, and the other thing I've been saying is I would really like if these original meetings, at Starbucks, in person.
Absolutely.
And I get the question, well, can we Zoom them? I said, did you hear what I said? Starbucks, in person. Well, yeah, in an emergency situation when there's no other alternative, yes, I suppose you can Zoom them. But no, Starbucks, in person, where I look at you and you look at me and we share a cup of coffee.
The temptation is somebody calls, I'd like to see 123 Main Street. Okay, fine, I'll meet you there in 10 minutes.
Right.
Because agents, especially when they're starting out, you're really desperate for that first or second deal, and you'll do anything. But I think part of this mindset shift is knowing your value and saying, that would be great. I would love to show you 123 Main Street, but I can't do that until we have our consultation. Won't take long, but I need to tell you the process. And of course, the end of the process is, please sign this buyer representation
And I
agreement.
have like 7 steps. That's what I've been talking about. I've been out in the world saying, here are the 7 steps.
Okay,
and
you have 7, 5.
5. Well, I talk more. But it's sort of like the resistance is, that's a lot of work that I might have to do. And they don't get any...
On the part of the buyers?
On the part of the agents. Part of the agents that I've got to go through that.
Well, that'll take one deal they don't get, but then they'll be willing to do
and
the
then they'll be
consultation.
willing, yes, that's kind of what I think. But it's almost like we're going backwards in some ways. And we're going backwards to, when I started in real estate 25 years ago, you would come to my office, we would sit down, we'd look through the books, because I'm a book girl. We'd decide that on Saturday you're going to come back, and we're going to go see these 5 houses. And we would go see these 5 houses, and you'd come in the car with me, so we would bond in the car. Then we would talk badly about the house that we saw that had everything painted black with skulls on the walls. We'd roll our eyes about that and bond over that. But then we would have lunch together.
I was going to say, I hope there's lunch in
Yeah,
there.
we would have lunch together. And by the time we were done, we knew each other at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we're missing to some degree. This idea that we're going to be, if not friends, kind of at least friendly afterwards.
It remains a relational business.
Yes.
It's more challenging now because the expectation is that it's going to go quickly. The digital world, I've seen the house online, let's go. And that's a mindset stumbling block I think that we have in front of us is to balance those two things.
Yes.
I need to slow it down, show you what we do, show you why I'm worth this, and then I'm happy to show it to you. That's going to be the trickiest part, in my opinion.
And
I don't even like the digital signatures because it precludes you
from sitting
here. But I guess we're
here.
showing our age and like the
Well,
time
but
of
it
business.
also, there's something, there's some magic in the pen, in your fingers in the pen. I always laugh when people are sitting there and they're taking their notes when we're talking, and I want to say, put your computer away, get your pen and pencil out, because there are studies that have shown that if you will actually write your notes, you will remember them better. This somehow doesn't work the same way in your brain.
Here's what I'm hoping, that all of this stuff we're talking about and all the big changes, it's going to bring it all back to a little bit more of this, where
Yes.
we are giving buyers, even if they think they want to rush and have you stop talking, what we're really doing is giving them attention, one-on-one attention that they deserve. And I don't think there'll be as much pushback against that as we think.
I think also something you mentioned before, people have to, agents, brokers, salespeople, whatever you want to call them, have got to learn to say no. I'm sorry, if you don't want to work with me, it's okay. But this is the way that I work.
I have a wonderful anecdote. I won't name her name, but she's a wonderful agent. And she did balance this business of, quick, we got to see this house right now. And she said over the phone, we're going to need to talk about this and sign a representation agreement, but I'm happy to show you. So she did a good thing. She balanced it. She met them there. The woman signed the representation agreement, standing there outside the house, and the man said, I'm not going to do that. And she politely said, I wish you well. She got in her car and drove away.
Did they call her back?
No. She knew how to say no, that this was
I
not
think that we're
worthy of her efforts and advocacy.
And I would say, I would believe that with all my heart. That's a great way to end this, that you've got to believe in all your heart that you are worth.
Absolutely.
You and I don't have much trouble with that most days, I don't think. We kind of know what we're worth.
There are moments, but most days we hold our
There
heads
are always
high.
moments, yes. So anyway, Catherine, thank you so much for spending
Thank you for
time with
inviting
us.
me.
This
Always
was nice.
enjoy it.
Just a note, the views of our guests may not reflect the views of the North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors.